Thanks to my Ko-fi supporters that make these videos possible. You can also get a deck review on my weekly Tuesday and Sunday streams. It's the best way to support the channel. Hello everyone. So apologies in advance if this is more of a video for me and less of a video for the audience, but I feel like we all have a sneaking question in the back of our minds. How much does EDH YouTube actually affect deck building? Are people actually internalizing the lessons that people put online, whether that be on YouTube or a article posted? I mean, first things first, obviously not. Frank Lepore would be weeping openly if he saw how many people just flagrantly disregard mana bases and colors and stuff. Read those articles, by the way. Very, very useful if you find yourself unable to cast your spells very frequently. But I decided to go ahead and ask my Discord about it. I wanted to see how creators have influenced viewer deck building. And this is just my audience, right? So this is probably going to be, of course, disproportionately affected towards me, but I made sure to clarify, hey, listen, is there any video that you have watched that has actually made your deck building a lot better? So not only is this a sanity check for me to make sure that, hey, I'm actually doing something at all, but also it's a great jumping off point for a lot of videos that have actually helped people. Our first response comes from 13,000 power persona ride to drive, aka Tempest Buster. Unironically, EDHREC's podcast episodes have done well in making me find new niche cards, as well as challenging the stats, making me realize what cards do and don't belong. So for those that don't know, EDHREC Cast actually has this little segment right in the middle called Challenge the Stats, where they take viewer suggestions for a card that is in a deck, and they talk about whether or not it is not represented enough on the EDHREC page or is overrepresented for some reason. It's actually probably one of my favorite things about that show in general. It's really fun to see that EDHREC is a tool, but it's not a complete deck building solution. It should be something in the toolbox, not the toolbox. I feel like a lot of people don't know either about the filter tool. This is something I go into in my deck building video, but when you have a card that doesn't show up on the EDHREC page for a thing, let's say, for example, you were building Maria, right? The one that can tap equipments and stuff, or just any non-token artifact, and you built a Maria equipments deck like Snail did. You can filter specifically for decks that contain cards that go in equipment decks, and you're probably going to get better recommendations from that page after filtering in certain equipments or whatever, or equipment synergistic cards. It's an incredibly useful tool, and I feel like people just don't use it at all. Next up is from We Shall All Be Healed. Number one thing I've learned and applied from the Magic Mirror cast is to think about a card's floor as much as its ceiling. This has led to me has led to me having a lot more fun in general because all of my decks are now built to avoid non-games. Number two thing is wizard cycling. Okay, first things first, wizard cycling is based. I fucking love wizard cycling. But secondarily, yes, floors and ceilings of cards are probably the most important thing in the world to me. I very much value high floor cards, but there are certain people who appreciate a higher ceiling much more than a low floor. I think the correct answer is somewhere in the mix of it, is you want to have a higher floor, make the floor as high as possible, but if you, at the end of the day, love a strategy that has a very low floor and a very high ceiling, you should not be worried about this, right? Something like a storm deck that can get the rug pulled out from under it or something like that. This is a very good example of a high ceiling, but very, very dismally low floor. If that's the deck that calls to you and that's the deck you have the most fun with, go with it. That is not a fault. That is just, at the end of the day, Commander is a personality-driven format. And here we have a kind of divide between me and a lot of people where it's I like very high floor cards, even if that comes at a very low ceiling. I end up building mid-range piles by accident all the time, and other people might appreciate those more higher ceilings. So yeah, I would say figure out where you lie. The best way to do that is to just play the game and see what strategies call to you the most. Make the floor as high as possible, but if you can't get it, higher than an inch, then that's where you are. Don't worry about it. That's not a fault. That's fine. Next up is 04 Treefolk, aka McDouble, who says, Salubrious Snail posted a video in which he talks about his Raudha and Malphagor decks. talking about different ways to use the command zone. Those 2 decks specifically use the commander as a tool to fill in a gap in the game plan and do one specific job. I've taken this concept to 11 and now use it for every card in my deck. Sometimes the job is I need a card that looks cool, and sometimes the job is I need a specific effect on a creature. I now build with intention in that I know exactly why each card is in my deck, how it synergizes with the rest of my game plan, and the overall game plans are more focused. I love this response so much. This is actually basically the core of my entire channel, is every slot in your deck is the most important slot in your deck. And it should be treated that way. I think that we get so wrapped up in autopilot building a deck. Oh, I'm building a new EDH deck. Time to put in Command Tower and, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet and Generous Gift and, right? And we have all these cards that are just like autopilot fill in the blank cards. And we never really go back over them. It's like if you were sketching something and you get that foundation down and then you just never did any new line art over the previous sketch and you just colored it in right away, right? That's what it feels like when I see a deck with Generous Gift in it, when actually this other removal spell fits the curve and the theme better. It might not have the same high floor, like I mentioned earlier, but it may instead have a higher ceiling or a more interesting play pattern. And at the end of the day, Commander is a format that is not about necessarily creating a deck that is flawless. It's about creating a deck that is the most interesting to you and the most fun to engage with, right? Especially at these lower casual brackets. To wrap back around to Snail, though, Snail's videos are about counterweight commanders, and this is actually something I use relatively frequently when I'm building a deck. I'll typically, for instance, go lighter on card draw when the commander draws cards. This is true for, my Iara deck, which I still need to make a video about, by the way, but it's a very boring life drain deck. It's actually not that interesting. And this is something I learned about Farrakha too. Farrakha makes so many tokens that I ended up not actually really needing Tormod or Amzu or any of these other Golgari token creators, because Farrakha by herself will make a large enough board of snakes that it turns into lethal very quickly with an overrun, especially since the snakes have Death Touch. And so I really actually needed to lean a little bit less into token generation because Farrakha already did the job super well. I think the only token generating card I have left in that deck is Insidious Roots, and that's because that card's broken. And it's also a Cryptolith, right? So that's where I am with Farrakha. So even me, I fall into these trappings sometimes when the deck is in an earlier stage of development, and I eventually your deck will not be perfect the first pass around, all right? It'll get better as time goes on. But these sorts of YouTube lessons can help you hone in on why a deck is not functioning properly, or maybe it might show a new flaw that you weren't even able to see before the video or whatever. That's what I really love about Commander media like this and deck building media in general. Next up is by 33 Cat Dragon, aka BE702. Hi, you've been around since day one. I've noticed, don't worry. Evaluating how I can shove more synergy into my veggies of card draw removal ramp, in parentheses, if needed, very good point, and lands. Even if making a good stuff deck, you can intentionally select cards that benefit your general plan as being good to make the deck more concise and flow better. Also, importantly, believing in a high land count and trying to gauge the number of lands of X ramp needed on the overall curve. Oh yeah, so just acknowledging your curve and stuff. Okay, so listen, I hate the word veggies now. I literally can't stand it because this is actually how you get the Generous Gift thinking of earlier, where it's just oh, building a commander deck, gotta put Generous Gift in. It's my veggie, that's my removal spell. And it's God, it's not that Generous Gift is even a bad card. It's just that for 80% of decks, there's always a better option than the more generic ones that fit the flow and the feel of the deck better. And people just don't look for them because it's not broken, so why fix it, right? Generous Gift is fine. It's okay. You fail to see the fact that the deck actually doesn't need this anchor or what you thought was an anchor because it's a veggie. You need your veggies, right? So no, there is no veggies. Categorizations of scam that our human brains come up with. There are no categorizations. You don't need to fill up your buckets and you don't need a deck template. Your deck is your deck and it should be tailored accordingly. Everything is unique. This is my hot take. Deck building templates out the window. It can give you a very good starting experience, but you should really be building every deck as its own individual thing and not like thinking about veggies. Or at least if you are doing that, tie them into your theme somewhat. Make the veggies something you find fun and not just like generic boring card, number 50 billion. Like, this is why people think lands and removal are boring. They're not. There's so many interesting ways to do this, and sadly, because they've been relegated to veggie status, it's just no one thinks about them that hard, which is heartbreaking. Next up is just the menacing ghoul, and there's no message. That's really scary and cool. I like that one a lot. Next up from 1/1 Rat Rogue, aka Thorn. Exposure to more cards in general. I find that the key to building decks is simply having seen as many cards as possible and seeing those cards being played. Media around EDH helps more people, especially new players, see unique cards and not deck build with the same EDHREC slop decks that are far too easy to make. I agree on one end where it's like, yes, having a deeper card pool and knowledge is part of what makes you a good deck builder. And that's just something you can only build up with time and playing the game. But there's another way to build it up, and that's Scryfall. Scryfall is very handy. Since every card is syntaxed about the same, you can make guesstimates as to like what cards you would like. So like it's an Aristocrats deck. So sacrifice, whenever. So now you're looking for triggered abilities with sacrifice stuff in them. And the Scryfalling jujitsu you can do is like so dumb. There's like so many cards I found that I've had no idea existed at all until I did a Scryfall search for them and like found the perfect card for my situation just because I was doing some vibe-based Scryfalling. I really recommend watching my old Scryfall video. That's still pretty up to date. Basically how I build all my decks. And yeah, Scryfall is a very useful tool and it should be used more frequently than EDHREC in my opinion. Although EDHREC does have its uses sometimes, absolutely. Lastly, we have a response by 2/1 Elemental with Trample and Haste, aka Leo. A big one for me was Erza's, it's like Urza, but with air. Erza's article on aggro in EDH and how pressure is incredibly important to keeping people from doing really degenerate stuff. Producing even a decent board early and starting to swing with it puts a clock on opponents and forces them to consider that maybe they shouldn't play with another 5-mana enchantment that can't block, doubling Season, Smothering Tithe, etc. Additionally, don't worry about threatening permanents if they're not a problem for you, specifically. Sure, 12/12 Galta is scary, but it's not scary for you until it's attacking you. If it's attacking your opponents, let them. It's free damage for you. Yeah, I really love the like dynamics and how Snail put it was Akido of Commander, where it's like, if you swing at me, I'm going to turn it and reverse it on you. But until then, we're best friends, right? So keeping things moving, Goad is a mechanic that does this. But also on top of all of this, just like the politics of Commander is a way to win games. I've come to the conclusion at this point that winning isn't the end goal of Commander. I mean, it's something that the entire table should be striving towards, but winning isn't the point, right? It's something everyone wants to be marching towards, but it's not the reason you're there. That's how you make good games of Commander happen. So this article, which I have read in full, it's really good and I heavily recommend it actually, is actually super cool to putting these kind of abstract thought of like threat assessment and using your opponents as resources and this kind of management of tempo in EDH into like a concrete form, like this like abstract idea in concrete text, which is really nice. I'll link it to the video description. You all should read it. It's really good. But anyway, that does it for this video. Please let me know down in the comments below what videos are out there that have changed your deck building entirely. Are there any videos of mine that have changed a card or two in your deck or your philosophy on a certain deck building thing? Like, let me know. I read all my comments and stuff. It's really sweet that I can do videos like this where I respond to you all and you all love it. So stick around, join the Discord if you want to get your comment shown in a video like this. And until next time, bye!